in and had been stuck in traffic. So just really quick, which is great, right? Rainy day. If you already have a case or have taken a case with Children's Law Center, could you just show of hands really briefly? Okay, great. If you have attended any pro bono events, trainings, anything with CLC, another show of hands, separate from cases. If you worked at CLC, we have an alum in the room. Okay, great, excellent. So a lot of new folks are here today. Are there any initial questions about anything that I've said in our introduction before we pass it off to Janine in a moment? Okay, great. A lot of you have found coffee. There are drinks over here. That's the other important thing. Please feel free to help yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm not Sarah and I'm not Janine, but I'm going to go ahead and get us started on our overview. So Healthy Together is the program that Sarah and Janine are a part of at Children's Law Center. That's really the internal name for our team. That's the medical legal partnership. And so what is a medical legal partnership? So it's a really cool delivery model. You're partnering lawyers, medical legal, right? You're partnering doctors and lawyers to really get at the root cause of a child's health problem. And so we have attorneys who have been doing this for years. We've been expanding at CLC over the years, which I'll get to in just a second. But this really is a program, a model that's based on prevention. And so the idea is that you want to remove barriers, the non-medical barriers. Doctors, of course, are doing their thing in the medical field, but there are a lot of non-medical barriers that can be getting in the way of a child's health, of the family's health. And so we see both of those things, and we're looking to work together so that we can step in legally, team with those doctors, and get good outcomes for kids. So you'll see that the MLPs work to address and prevent adverse social pressures with legal remedies through the following. So you see direct patient contact, provider training, and systemic advocacy. And so we have our attorneys out at these different clinics across the city on different days. So it could be 1 to 3 days a week, this attorney, someone like Janine that you're going to hear from, who's out at a clinic and working hand in hand with those doctors, with the social workers, with the medical staff at the clinic. And so as the medical staff are working with families, then we're training the medical staff. They're not lawyers and we're not doctors, but we're teaming together. And as they're spotting issues for us, we're able to connect. We're able to do intakes with clients there. They're there already seeing their medical staff. We're able to do an intake with them on something that's a legal issue, something that might be that non-medical barrier to the family's health and well-being. And that can be a really efficient and effective way of moving forward to get at the root cause of a child's health issue. And so we do trainings with the doctors regularly. Our staff actually trains parents and community members in the waiting room. I think they did 100 some trainings just last year. So we really are getting the word out for clients to be empowered and for doctors to be able to help us in our collaboration together. And CLC does a lot of systemic advocacy as well. We have a policy team, and so a lot of these issues that are larger just than any one case or client, we're taking that to a systemic level as well. So you'll see that the Children's Law Center MLP is one of the oldest in the nation, and we started out in 2002 with one lawyer. So here we are 17 years later. How can it be 17 years later than 2002? I don't know, but that's the math. We now have 11 lawyers, we have 2 investigators, and we're really excited about a new position that is just fresh off of, I think yesterday, a new position of a family outreach worker. And so we're going to have someone who's really going to assist us working with families in the community and getting their feedback and involvement in the process so we can better serve our clients. So that's a lot of growth over those 17 years. We've expanded into multiple clinics across the city, Children's, Unity, Mary Center, and it's been really successful. So a lot of these cases that you're seeing for special education and any of our housing cases, we're getting these referrals from those pediatricians. I skipped ahead. Those are the clinics that I just mentioned. And now I'm going to turn it over to Janie to talk about an overview of DC's fun school system. Janie, I've already let people know if it feels kind of wacky, then they're on track because it is. You can just use that.
Right here?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Good morning. So I'm going to, first of all, I don't know, Jen, what you said about me, but I am the I am supervising attorney at Children's Law Center. I've been there for about 6 years. I've been doing special ed law probably technically since law school, because that's when I really got into special ed law as a law clerk. But overall, I've probably been doing it about 7 or 8 years total. So before that, I was a teacher, so I've seen both sides. And as a side note, I have a sister that's a speech language pathologist. So it's just, special ed is just all in the family, I guess I could say. So anyway, we're going to talk about, starting with the overview of the DC school system. So DC is in itself, just the way the school system is, it's different than what you might see in Maryland or Virginia. So first of all, children age 3 by September 30th, they can attend public pre-K. And then children ages 5 through 18 are required by law to attend school. So there's a mandatory requirement for kids that are ages 5 to 18 to attend. And DC is a small city, but it has a lot of school districts and a lot of school choice. 55% of kids that are in DC are in DCPS, and 45% attend public charter schools. There's a couple different ways to get into DC public schools. One, residents in the particular neighborhood, so what we call your neighborhood school. The school lottery. The school lottery is once a year, and it's February and March. So that's another way. So if you don't want to go to your neighborhood school, you can enroll in the school. You can apply through the school lottery. Then there's the application high school. So there's certain schools like Duke Ellington, Banneker. There's certain high schools that you have to apply to get in. And you look at grades and different things like that. And then you can transfer through a safety transfer, something called a discretionary transfer, which is when a DCPS official basically says you are allowed to go for whatever the circumstances are, you're able to transfer to a different school. And then there's special education schools, and that is so a special education day school, and that can come from a placement through a decision by the IEP team, or through a hearing officer's decision. With the school lottery, so the school lottery, they can't discriminate against students that have disabilities in admission. So if you want to apply to a school and the child has an IEP, they can't say, well, you can't come here because you have an IEP. If they already are oversubscribed, then they have to have a wait list. So sometimes, for example, the school lottery for high school, the deadline to apply is February 1st. But let's say you miss that deadline, you can still get on what they call the post-lottery list, and it's just basically a wait list to see if you can get into the school. So getting to school, students in DC must get themselves to school, even if they're little guys that are like first and second graders, unless they qualify for transportation. I don't know, where I grew up in Michigan, and where I grew up, everyone got transportation. There was a bus stop and you just waited out there. But that's not how it is in DC. The children have to qualify for transportation as part of their special education plan or under the ADA, or if the school provides transportation for all students. So there's one public charter school that I know of that has transportation, and they have like these hubs, and so they will pick up kids. But also, I think an important thing to note is that just because you have an IEP doesn't mean you qualify for transportation. There are still like a little checklist that you have to go through to determine whether you get transportation or not. So, special education system framework. You will hear a lot of acronyms today. And one of them is SEA, for the State Education Agency. This is a state school system that oversees all the LEAs in the state. So in DC, that is the Office of State Superintendent for Education, which we call OSSE or the OSSE, and they oversee all the LEAs. So what's an LEA? LEA is the local school system of the county, city, or town in which the child resides, and they are responsible for overseeing the day-to-day delivery. So your school district, basically, is what your LEA. So like Fairfax County, that's LEA. For DC, District of Columbia Public Schools, DCPS, or the independent charter school is the LEA. So in DC, if you have a charter school, all charter schools now are independent. So let's say you have a charter school, there's one called KIPP Public Charter School. They are their own LEA, which means they're their own school district. So it's kind of the same as they're as different as Fairfax is from Prince George's County School District. They're their own school district. And all LEAs have the same legal responsibility regardless of size. So if your kid goes to KIPP Public Charter School, KIPP is their school district. That means they have the same legal responsibilities. They can't say, well, we're small charter school. We can't serve this child. They have to serve the child and make sure the kid has an appropriate education, even if they're a small charter school compared to DCPS. So who oversees whom? OSSI oversees DCPS and the independent LEA charters. And DCPS obviously oversees DCPS schools. So the day-to-day, your IEPs, all the discipline, the nitty-gritty of education, that's coming from DCPS or the independent LEA charter. Then the Public Charter School Board kind of has a weird role because they don't oversee a charter school in the sense that OSSI does. They're responsible for opening charter schools and closing charter schools. If you call up the Public Charter School Board to tell them about something awful that's happened, they will listen and they will talk to the charter school, but they really don't have the authority to take much action over a charter school. But they still oversee, they determine whether a charter stays or goes.